Catus, Maximus here, this time with a little review of this Hitachi drywall screwdriver, high speed, 4,000 RPM, 6.5 amps. They advertise 750 watts, so quite a bit of power. This is the W6V4, so this is just before they were bought out by Metabo, or maybe right around the same time. I'm not entirely sure. Actually runs pretty smooth. Is kind of loud, but not too bad. Plenty of power for the RPM. Overall, it seems like a decent tool. After doing a bunch of research, I mean, I got this for pretty cheap, but these new, I mean, you can still find these for 40 bucks or something. As far as my research, they're actually, the electrics and the motor is actually pretty decent. They're reasonably decent at preventing drywall dust from getting into the gearbox or into the front bearing, which seems to be an issue. I've seen that on DeWalt's where over heavy use, drywall dust will escape through. But this one actually has a rubber seal right there, and that helps prevent dust from getting in there. It also has this kind of interesting thing where they have this plastic cover over the gearbox. I'm not entirely sure. I've never seen that before in any other kind of drywall screwdriver or drill or anything. I guess just to help prevent scuffing, or maybe it's to prevent drywall dust from kind of getting caught up with the grease that's in the gearbox. Not entirely sure. Trigger lock. It does have a matchstick reverse, but what I did like is that they have these little wings here on the body to help you prevent you from accidentally hitting that. The real shortcomings, one, the belt clip isn't super strong, but I guess it's good enough. The biggest issue is that there just isn't a very strong detent for the depth adjustment here. I can just easily adjust that, and that's been a lot of the complaints with this, is the fact that as you're using it or putting it down, that it will kind of want to creep on its adjustment, and that can definitely frustrate users. Let's do a little demonstration, and I'll show how to my idea for fixing that issue that's on this. I'll have to see what my depth is. This is always the fun part of these, is just figuring out where your depth is. Way too deep. I mean, this is a loose collar. A lot of reviews say it's very reliable. Can run a lot of hours and a lot of screws. The overmolding actually has a lot of sharp edges, and it tends to want to peel. There we go. I think I got that just about right. Now, as far as how you use these, if people don't know, is they're meant, once you get them adjusted, there we go. Got most of those in there. Is once you get it adjusted, then you just have it running full speed. You lock the trigger on, and then you just drive the screws in. Actually, you kind of notice the issue that I had. You kind of want to be a little bit more aggressive. Once it's running, you put in the screw in, and you just push it in. And just the thing about 4,000 RPM is it just drives the screw in super fast, and you just go right along and attach your drywall. So anyway, about this collar, that's the worst part about this thing, is how loose that collar gets. So I'll show you what my idea for modifying it is. Actually, there's a couple ideas. So if we pull this off, quite a bit of threads in there. We can see what it's these corrugations. It's a sheet metal, but it is a steel collar. And then all it has is just this little metal band in here. It doesn't go all the way around. There's a little gap, and it just has like a little bump on it. It just does not give a very positive retention. Particularly, one of the issues is that the way this is kind of curved, I guess it makes it easier. So the two options, one is simply to jam something in here to make this tighter. The second option would be, of course, a little bit more brutal, but it's simply to drill some holes right in the side and take a screw, put it in the grinder, grind it so it's super short, and just use a screw. You could even pull out this metal collar and just use a screw or a couple, even 3 of them, and it's a hassle. But the deal is you set these at a particular depth, and once they're set, you really don't adjust them. They're not the type of thing that you're adjusting all the time. You adjust it for the depth, and then you just finish the job, and usually you don't readjust it again unless you're in a situation where you maybe want the screws to go a little bit deeper than normal. So it's just fine, and that would be my suggestion, is drill some holes, 3 holes, remove this little metal thing, and then get it adjusted just where you think it's perfect, and then tighten down the screws so it can't move anywhere. After some fidgeting around, besides drilling holes and putting screws in to really lock it down, but I found the jam in there. What you do is you just find like a small diameter nail or something. I put this just right under the one corner of this. If you put something too thick or across the whole thing, it just won't turn at all. But this seems to be just perfect. This is just like I don't even know, it's a little tiny piece of metal, maybe, you know, 3 millimeters or something, 2.5 millimeters. And that was just perfect. So you could just find a small screw or like a finish nail or something that fits in there just tight, cut it off and jam it in one side, and that adds a bunch of extra tension. And now it still will turn, but now it's just like a whole lot more rigid, a whole lot more solid, a lot less likely to have this thing move around. And that's really what they should have done from the beginning, or had that ring have 3 little detents so it held tighter. They probably wanted to make it pretty easy to adjust, but really when it comes to drywall screwdrivers, you want them to be pretty stiff so that they don't frustrate you by readjusting themselves as you use them. And just putting that little rod in there made this just about perfect. It's stiff, not too stiff that you can't adjust it, but now it's something where I'm pretty sure it's not going to move around. So an actual pretty easy fix. I'm not going to take apart the gearbox. It is ball needle bearing. There's not much to really look at. But I'll pop open the back just so we can take a look at the how big the brushes are and that type of stuff. Alright, let's take a quick look in the back of this thing. Do you like this little Makita impact screwdriver? It's perfect for tools. There's our belt clip. You can slide this out and pull it out if it's not something that you actually want in there. Kind of a neat option. Pretty simple to change the power cord. When you buy these new, I forgot to mention, it comes, one of the nice features, it comes with a 25-foot power cord. I actually pulled it off and swapped it for another tool that I wanted the long cord with. And not a lot going on here. Pretty simple. I really like this about the power switch. Instead of like funky contacts, I was actually working on repairing a Milwaukee whole hog, and it has like totally proprietary terminals, super annoying. This is really simple. You just take the pieces of wire, you strip them, you can tin them if you want, and then it just has a couple screw down terminals, so just super easy to replace the power cord. Really like that a lot. And now if I pull this out and we look, having a hard time seeing here, it looks like 8 amps at 125 volts, so the trigger isn't particularly overrated, but it's strong enough. They do tin all the wires here, which isn't too bad. Other than that, we can see that it's PA6 GF30, so it is fiberglass reinforced nylon body, which is proper. And just using what a lot of these modern compact tools use. Almost all of them now are using this clock spring design. They do have a little dedicated wire that's integrated into the brush to increase conductivity. They are brass brush guides, but it isn't all brass. It's like a little brass guide. The spring is mounted to a piece of plastic. But when it comes to a drywall screwdriver, it's really not a big deal. The only time you run into kind of issues is excuse me, when you use them a lot and you don't use an air compressor to blow them out, drywall dust and stuff will build up and then start to restrict the airflow, and it's probably one of the things that actually kills the motors the most in like tools like this. as they're always pumping dust through them, and it does build up. So you periodically do want to just take an air compressor and blow it in the vents and blow it through the back to clear out that dust buildup. We can just see the motor in there. Well, maybe you can't because of the contrast. It does use folded contacts. Nothing real special. The motor isn't anything really to write home about. It's just a standard folded contact motor, but at least it's ball bearing. Besides that, not a lot else to talk about. I've seen these pretty cheap, like 25 bucks or something on eBay in excellent condition. And like I said, new, I found one place that was like 40 bucks for these. So for the price for just a basic drywall screwdriver, it's really not too bad. I mean, it's a decent quality for the price, and all you have to do is just do a little modification to tighten up the detent for the collar adjustment so it doesn't want to move around so easily on you. And it'll be a righteous drywall screwdriver for people who are a bit more on a budget. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.